So let me just say a few words, because let me apologize to all of the honorees. I have to leave right after I speak. Why?
Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump.
It's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything. I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband.
The new U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, marked her first full day on the job on Tuesday. And priority number one, according to the president himself, indict New York Attorney General Letitia James.
And this case has been dead for years. They've tried to resurrect it. It continues to be dead. I hope it's dead.
A reporter asked White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt if that's retribution, and she responded, quote, "It's accountability."
The case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump Organization, and an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president, and exonerated him of this witch hunt and showed that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James? In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche, top DOJ leadership, who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
Is that not retribution, though?
Jeff, it's accountability.
Thanks.
Jeff. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land. And I think the president is reaffirmed in those frustrations and his hope for accountability by the millions and millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability. And the president has not been shy about this, Gabe. In fact, when he traveled to the Department of Justice earlier this year, all of you were there to cover it. He said, quote, "I demand a full and complete accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave a mandate to investigate and root the corruption out of our system." And that's what the president wants to see done.
Because the prior top prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia wouldn't bring a case against the Attorney General of New York, Tish James, for mortgage fraud accusations in Norfolk, Virginia, that Tish James unequivocally denies. The prior U.S. Attorney, Eric Siebert, was a Trump appointee brought in just a few months ago at the start of the administration. And the replacement, the successor who was sworn in midday today, is Lindsay Halligan, who is a Trump aide, former Trump lawyer. She represented him in the classified records case that was dropped in 2024 in Florida. And there is concern that if you have a loyalist in a prosecutor's position, a loyalist may do the work of the administration in addition to the work of the Justice Department.
What else can we say about the president's seeming order to Pam Bondi and how it might influence not just what happens in the Eastern District of Virginia, but nationwide?
There's an appearance issue, whether that's an order, a recommendation, or a suggestion from the president. It shatters the norm of independence between the Department of Justice and an administration, one that's been there since the Nixon era. You have an independent justice system that pursues cases on their merits, not because of political recommendations from the administration. That image is gone if you have social media posts that direct the Attorney General to prosecute 3 people by name. That has a fundamental issue inside the Department of Justice. It may cause some turnover. Some people may leave versus stay and work in that environment, but also can have a real practical impact on the cases. That's a defense lawyer's dream, to show that social media post to a jury and say, this is why the case was brought, not because my client committed a crime.
Why is what Donald Trump is doing to James Comey any different than what Letitia James and, frankly, the Biden Justice Department did to Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know what they did to Donald Trump. You know, a jury found him guilty on 34 felonies.
You're conflating 2 cases, but okay.
Well,
Letitia James said, no, what I'm trying to say is Letitia James said on camera, I am running to get Donald Trump. And she did. And Democrats were just fine with that. Rule of law, rule of law. Donald Trump ran on, I am going to get my political enemies and do unto them what they have done unto me, which is he's doing right now. And you didn't mind it when Letitia James did it. You're just justifying it. But when Donald Trump does it, it's terrible. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is because he campaigned on putting prices on grocery stores down the first day, getting control of inflation. He hasn't. Grocery prices are still high as they can be. He's taking health care away
come
from
on,
American
Congressman. Come on.
No, it's a big difference. And he's made the point. He's going to be retribution. He's going after all these people.
Right, but Congressman, Letitia James, hold on. Letitia James ran, and we played montage after montage of her going, I'm going to get Donald Trump. I'm going to do it. And Democrats had no problem when she did. In fact, as you just said, they followed the law. They had a jury. Letitia James brought charges, blah, 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 blah. But when Donald Trump runs on getting his opponents, now the Democrats are so concerned about lawfare. And I'm just wondering why you weren't concerned when Letitia James was doing it. I agree it's terrible, but why the hypocrisy?
In this case, all of the professionals apparently in the Justice Department, including Mr. Siebert, who apparently was an outstanding attorney and would have been a great U.S. attorney for the Eastern District, said there was not the facts to indict Mr. Comey. And yet he hired a woman who's a real estate lawyer and put her down there, changing the focus and the professionalism.
So it matters who at the Justice Department does it. I'm still trying to get to this core.
No, sir.
I'm trying to start. No, hold on. I'm trying to get to this core issue. A politician says, I am going to get somebody. I'm going to use the power of the judiciary to get a person, just like Beria did in the Soviet Union, right? Show me the man, I'll find you the crime. Which is exactly what Letitia James did. I'd argue it's exactly what the Justice Department did to Donald Trump, but neither here nor there. And it's exactly what Donald Trump is doing, right, to James Comey. You are upset about it now that Trump's doing it. You weren't when Letitia James doing it. What's the difference?
There's so many differences. In this case, you've had all these professionals say there's not a case. He gets in a woman, no business being U.S. attorney, tells her, go indict them. Get my opponents and indict them. And it happened. This is direct interference, and it's scary for the future of the Justice Department. Members of the U.S. Attorney's offices are resigning. It happened in New York, in the Southern District. It's happened in Virginia. It's happened other places. People don't feel comfortable with this Justice Department.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.